Okay, in this exercise, again, we're going to emphasize the loading external SWF files, and it is a review exercise, but I have added a few new features that will actually give you even more control when you're working with external files. Let me run this finished file now, and then we'll talk about how it's built and so on. So I'm just going to go up to Control Test Movie, give it a test. And I've basically got 4 buttons here. And I've actually got 5 with this stop button, and we'll address that soon. But I've got 4 buttons and they're animated, so I do want you to create an animated button, just a simple animated button where we have animation on rollover. And these are all the one button in the library and 4 different instances with 4 unique instance names attached to each. The text is separate from the button, and that's why I can reuse the one same common button. Okay, so if I click the first one, it loads an external movie, and I want you to create this little movie where if I hit the right arrow key, our little skater guy goes to the right. If I hit my left arrow key on the keyboard, he goes left. If I hit any other arrow key, it actually will give me a message in my output window, a different key was pressed. Okay, so I will have a response to any key pressed, but the little skater guy will only move with the right arrow key and the left arrow key, and you will need to do that in a separate movie, create an SWF file, and then through the scripting bring it into a loader. The second button, I want you to create something very similar to your nested animation assignment. I want 3 levels, 3 movie clips nested one inside of the other. Again, the animation is of your choice, but I want to see 3 sets of controls for each timeline. So this is inside of this, which is inside of that. And then that will be saved as an external SWF movie and loaded into this movie when we click the second button. Okay, third button is just like our jukebox. It loads a sound with a progress bar. And we have a stop button for that. And the fourth is the same, just getting you to repeat that with a different song.
1, 2, 3, my baby go, man.
So you're going to need to create an external file with the sound streaming, progress bar that animates along with the song title. The stop command will be in this host file. Okay, but the stop command is a little awkward. It's out of place, so we need to deal with that a little later on. Let me show you how this file is built, and then I'm going to show you how you can finesse this. Go back to my timeline. Again, I've got one actions panel, or rather one actions layer, a text layer, which when I highlight it, you can see what's all in there, the text for the buttons, as well as the title text and that backing graphic. And then my buttons layer has the 4 green buttons and the stop button. Okay, let's look at our code. I'm going to highlight the frame with the code and just open that up in my actions panel. And again, most of it generated with code snippets and then modified. Now these top 3 lines get auto-generated, so you don't really need to worry about that. When you start typing in the rest of this code, these do generate themselves. But I started by declaring a loader. So I created a variable called loader, made the data type loader, and then says equals new loader, and that's how we declare a new loader class. And then to have that actually appear on stage or be on stage as a recipient, if you will, of my loaded files, we use the add child command, which again adds things to the stage. So we're adding loader to the stage. So that's number 1. So we sort of have this empty container, if you will, ready to receive external files based on a load command. So my first button is called SWF1_BTN, and again, using code snippets, I added an event listener to the mouse click, and it's going to perform a function called playClicked. And the first line of that function is a stop all sounds command. So if there is sound playing on the previous imported file, it will get stopped in its tracks as soon as we load the new movie. The second line is the actual loading of the new file. So it's a loader.load with a new URL request and the name of the file inside of quote marks, which is actually a URL address, but because it's in the same folder, the URL address happens to be the file name. Now these two lines are new. These are for tweaking the position of the loaded movie. Sometimes you just want to move it a little to the left or to the right or up or down. So the .x command moves it left and right, and the .y command moves it up and down. Now this particular movie I've moved down 30 pixels, but I kept the left and right at 0. So you can see that on all 4 buttons. Same functionality and a little tweaking with respect to positioning of the loaded file. Okay, so there we go. This one I actually moved a little bit more. And this doesn't have to be a -0. I think I was copying and pasting, but 0 will suffice. Absolutely. And then our stop button, which is very simple. Again, it does stop all sounds, but instead of loading a movie, it simply unloads the container called loader. Okay, so that's the basics. That's pretty well what we did in our jukebox assignment, except we didn't tweak the positionings. Now let me just demonstrate this movie again and show you something that's not, at least not good enough for what I want to do. So I'll go test movie. And if I load the first movie, you'll notice that I lost my title bar. What's happening here is the movie's covering everything up. If you look at my animation, it actually animates behind it. I want the movie to sit behind the buttons, behind the title bar. Now it did cover up that stop button, which was convenient, but we'll deal with that in a more professional way very shortly. Let's deal with the stacking order. You remember the add child command. I'll go into the code here. We have an add child command for the loader. Well, we're going to use that same command to stack different movie clips, because you can apply add child to movie clips. So what I need to do though is I need to go in and highlight the text, isolate it, nest it in a movie clip, give it an instance name, and do the same for the buttons. So I'll start with the text. I'll highlight the text layer. Okay, so I'll go modify, convert to symbol, movie clip. I'll just call it text. Click OK. So now that's in a movie clip. Let me just lock that for a second so I can highlight the 4 green buttons. I'm not going to embed the stop button inside of there. I'll leave it as is. But I will grab these 4 green buttons and put those inside of a movie clip. Convert to symbol, movie clip. I'll call it green buttons, green underscore buttons. Okay. So now they're nested. I need to give those 2 items instance names though, so let me go back to the buttons. Go to my properties. I'll call it buttons underscore MC, because it's a movie clip. And the text. Oh, I locked that. Let me unlock that. Highlight that. And we'll call this text underscore MC. Okay. Probably a good time to save the file. Now I'm going to go and modify the code. The reason I need to modify the code is, well, number one, I want to change the stacking order, but number two, these buttons are now nested inside of a movie clip, so my navigation referring to those buttons is not correct anymore. I need to modify that pathway, if you will. So let me go back to my code frame, call that up in my actions panel. So I'm just going to modify the reference to the button name, because remember it's inside of a movie clip called buttons underscore MC. So I'm going to add buttons underscore MC dot button name. And I'll just copy that and I'll paste that in front of each button name. Because again, that's the pathway to where the button now exists. It's no longer on my main timeline. It's nested. Okay, and the fourth one down here. Now I might as well go in here as well and address the stacking order with my add child command. So I'm going to go in here inside of the functions and place those. Add child, capital C, better spell that correctly, add child, and then inside of the parentheses I will put the name of the movie clip. So the first one I'll say is buttons underscore MC, close parentheses, end statement. And these will stack in the order of appearance in the code. So I'm going to copy that and paste it underneath and change buttons to text underscore MC. Okay, so when this loads, these will load on top. It will basically reload those movie clips instantly. So I'm going to copy these and put them inside of each function now. So I want that to occur with each button click so that I can see the buttons on top of the graphics as well as the text. Okay, so let's just test that. I'm going to save that again. And we'll do a test movie. Okay, so I'll click the button here. Loads my little skater guy. But you can see the button is now on top because you can see that animation sits on top. And the big clue here is that my text is also sitting on top and not hidden underneath. Now let me go over to here. And we still have this issue with the stop button. If I go here, you'll notice that this is underneath, okay? Because when this flows underneath the title, it goes beneath that. So I do know that that is also sitting underneath. But this stop thing is definitely out of place. So let's address the visibility of the stop button. We're going to add some new code. I'm going to highlight my code frame. Go to my actions panel. And I'm simply going to declare the button as invisible to start. And when I click on the two buttons that have to do with the music, we're going to put inside of the function a declaration that the stop button is visible. So let me just start. I'll go way back up top before addressing any of the buttons. And I'll just say stop underscore btn dot visible equals false semicolon. Okay, and I will copy that. So that's the command line to turn the stop button invisible, and it happens right away when the movie initializes. But depending on the button that I'm in, I want it to appear or disappear. So here's my two audio buttons, if you will. So I'm going to add that in there as false and change the word false to true so that it will become visible. When I'm on this audio track called Eminem, that stop button becomes visible. And down here as well with the Outcast song, we'll turn false to true. Now on these other two, I do want it to disappear, so I will leave it at false when I click on the Nested Clips movie as well as the Skater Guy movie. Okay, so again, just to review, I started it off by declaring it as invisible, and then depending on the button, it either became visible or invisible. Let me close this, save the file, and one last test. Okay, here we go. Test movie. Okay, so I can see that the stop button is gone, and these are still sitting on top, and no stop button until I get to the song file. And if I go back here, you'll see it will disappear. Okay, so that's what I want you to build for me today. 4 buttons, simple animation on rollover, importing external SWF files, first one being Skater Boy, that moves left to right with key commands, keyboard commands. Second one is a 3-leveled nested animation with full control over starting and stopping each separate timeline. And the last 2, I want you to load a song with a progress bar with a stop button. And I want that stop button to appear and disappear at the appropriate time. And of course, I want you to affect the stacking order of the movie clips relative to the loader that's coming in as well. And that is your assignment for today.